Hey everybody, welcome to Beaming Notes, and today we're going to look at the critical analysis of the poem I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Critical analysis. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, inspired by Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem Sympathy, is an autobiography by Maya Angelou. In this poem, the poet presents a series of contrasts between the free bird and the caged bird, which is metaphorically used to heighten the difference between the whites and the African American during the apartheid. This poem highlights the grievances of the poet against a cruel racist society. Being a victim of discrimination and social and gender marginalization herself, Maya could aptly bring into limelight the pathetic condition of those who live an enslaved life under the constant control and restriction through the image of the caged bird. The theme of freedom and oppression is predominant in the poem. The poem is divided into 6 stanzas, out of which the 6th stanza is a repetition of the 3rd stanza. Perhaps the poet allowed unrestricted flow in the sentences to intensify the need for freedom in life. The freedom and joy experienced by a bird in its natural and unconfined habitat is best expressed in the 1st stanza, as the poet beautifully describes how the free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. The free bird happily flies from place to another in the sky that seems to belong to it. The free bird as of owns the entire sky and freely moves with the wind. The joyful condition of the free bird is immediately contrasted to the confined state in which the caged bird lives. His freedom is forcibly taken away from him as his wings are clipped and feet are tied. He is denied the freedom of movement. The only source of freedom he finds is in his voice, which he uses to sing songs for freedom. The caged bird lives a sad and miserable life, just like the African Americans who were subjected to inhuman cruelty and tyranny. The rage and helplessness of those people who had to face racial discrimination is well expressed through the pathetic condition of the caged bird, whose voice is full of fear and distress. Just like the African Americans desperately long for freedom from the shackled existence, the caged bird too longs for freedom in his songs, hoping that someday his wishes will be heard. The free bird already has so much freedom, but still selfishly desires for more, whereas the caged bird lives a life of agony and sorrow, knowing perfectly that the cage has become the grave of dreams for him. The physical pain of living in a limited space and mental agony of being denied the right of freedom draws our attention to the deplorable system of racial segregation back in the civil rights era. The bird's struggle for freedom is equated with the African American struggles for justice and equality. The sluggish struggle and the upsetting condition of the caged bird is associated with words like narrow cage, fearful trills, bars of cage, grave of dreams, and so on. The poem, however, ends on a positive note, affirming that no matter what, the caged bird shall continue to sing for freedom and hope for a better tomorrow. Apart from the reference to the wretched situation of the African Americans in general, this poem can be seen as an autobiography of Maya Angelou herself. She is metaphorically the caged bird subjected to oppression and injustice. She had to face quite a lot of discrimination and assault at a very early age. At the age of 7, she was subjected to such a terrifying assault that she could not speak for 5 years. Her condition was similar to the caged bird that was confined but refused to give up. The image of the caged bird opening his throat to sing can be seen as a reference to Maya's determination to free her from the fetters of injustice by writing for freedom. Just like the caged bird sang for freedom, Maya wrote poems and autobiographies asking for freedom and equal treatment. Poetic Devices. Alliteration. It is a close repetition of consonant sounds, usually at the beginning of words. For instance, can seldom see through. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. The free bird thinks of another breeze. The fat worm's waiting. Personification. Personification is a figure of speech in which abstract ideas and inanimate objects are invested with attributes of living beings. For instance, his shadow shouts on a nightmare scream, a free bird leaps on the back of the wind. Metaphor. It is a figure of speech in which a comparison between two different things is made indirectly. In this poem, the caged bird is a metaphor for the poet herself. The caged bird represents the misery and distress of all those African Americans who had to face inhuman treatment during the apartheid. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is the use of exaggeration to create emphasis. A hyperbole is never meant to be taken literally. In the line where the free bird dares to claim the sky, what the poet means is that the free bird has a confidence to claim the sky hypothetically. It does not really have the ability to claim the sky literally. Repetition. It is used to put emphasis on a particular idea. For instance, the lines, "His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing," are repeated in the poem to put stress on the distressing condition of the caged bird. Again, the whole sixth stanza is a repetition of the third stanza, which emphasizes on the caged bird's longing for freedom. Allusion. Allusion is a reference to other works or cultures in either prose or poetry. The title of the poem is a reference to Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem Sympathy. Form and structure. Rhyme scheme. The poem does not follow a particular rhyme scheme. However, there are some lines that rhyme internally. For example, with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill for the caged bird. In the above lines, trill rhymes with still, which in turn rhymes with hill. Again, heard rhymes with bird, forming an internal rhyme. A similar instance is seen in the line, "But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams, his shadow shouts on a nightmare scream."